So thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, thou shalt hear the word of my mouth, and warn them from me.
Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Middle Tennessee and examining current events from a biblical perspective, this is Bible News Radio with your hosts, Randall and Stacy Harp.
Hello, people. All right, so here we are, everybody. Happy whatever day this is. There we go. I can hear it in my thing there. Okay, so it is pickleball night, but me and Randall decided not to go because we were having some issues here with our lighting and stuff. And then we had to get electricity back to our studio, so we finally did that. And so we're here right now, just so you know. So, I want to welcome you to tonight's episode of Bible News Radio. Today is January 25th, 2018. I am your sweet and lovable host. We are simulcasting live on 3 platforms right now. Yes, we are. I think we're the first Christian show to live stream on 3 different platforms. We're on Facebook Live at facebook.com/Bible News Radio. We're on Periscope at periscope.tv/Bible News Radio. And we're also on YouTube Live at youtube.com/Bible News Radio. The audio of this show will be actually archived afterwards on Spreaker, and it will be downloaded on iTunes, just so you know. So I want to thank you all for joining us. Tonight we're going to talk about the truth about ex-gay therapy, or AKA conversion therapy. And we're also going to look at some of the headlines of the day, because I'm going to tell you there are some interesting ones. And, you know, I had a hard time narrowing down the show. And here's the other thing, too. I want to let you know that we're going to talk about the Bible right up front. We're going to talk about the topic of temptation. In fact, the Pope himself actually addressed that issue. So I'm going to start with the Pope, then I'm going to talk about the Bible, then we're going to talk about this issue of homosexuality and is it changeable? And if not, or if it is, I think you're going to find this interesting. So do me a favor, share it out if you don't mind. And if you're on Periscope, heart us up if you don't mind. I want to thank you all for coming in. And I ask that those of you who are praying people, feel free to keep us in prayer as we do the show. Because there's no doubt there will be attacks from the enemy. No doubt whatsoever. All right. And of course, I want to thank my bear face, my husband, Randall Pandle Bear. It's not his real name. But it may as well be. I think I call him that more than anything else. And he is actually growing a beard. I don't know, did you put yourself on?
Yeah, I'm on now.
There he is.
I'm on now.
Look at that. See, he has facial hair.
Hear my voice.
Yes, he's so manly.
My voice is my passport.
To what? Your voice is a passport to what?
I'm trying to think of the movie where these tech hackers made their way into this high secure place. And anyway, Sneakers, was that it? I don't know.
You ever have something in your teeth and it's just like it just comes out? Pardon that. Okay. Hey, anyway, that's would you see some snooty, highfalutin, whatever.
I'll research that. I'm going to go check that out. Bye.
Okay, anyway, so I want to say hi to the people I can see. So I know that there's some of our regular peeps. Evangelist Wilson is in the house. And, of course, Mia and Melanie is here, who's toppled Randall now as the #1 super fan. She's ousted him again. And all day, and Hot Potato, and whoever else is in here. I'm sure there'll be more people coming in here. Those guys are on Periscope. I don't know if anybody's over on Facebook yet, because it's really hard, super hard to keep everything track here. But if there is people on Facebook, if there are, rather. I guess the only way I can see you on Facebook is if you comment, which is a huge flaw in Facebook. And by the way, yesterday I actually learned on Owen Video's show with Nick Nimmin that, in case you didn't know this, I did not know this. Nick, I think it was Nick. No. I take that back.
Voice is my passport verified.
Really?
Really?
Okay. Anyway, no, it wasn't on Owen's show. It was from Jim. I think it was Jim. Anyway, it was from the guy afterwards who was telling me that when you click the emoticons on Facebook Live, like if you click the sad face, you're not saying, "Oh, I feel so sad about what you're saying." You're saying, "No, I don't want to see this video," apparently. Which is kind of dumb, in my opinion. It's the stupidest thing. I mean, they should have rules like, hey, if you hate this, you should hit sad face or angry, and then you won't see it. So on Facebook Live, apparently, if you click the happy face and the love and all that, that's what you should do. You should ignore all the negative stuff, otherwise you're not going to see it. So, hey, Phil, how you doing, my friend? So. Anyway, so if you're on Facebook Live, sorry I can't see you. It looks like it's having a hard time getting loaded here. Yeah, maybe we should do Janet Mefford thing first. Yeah, okay, let's talk about, so Janet Mefford is a Christian radio talk show host, right? Okay, and this is just an aside. So she posted on her Facebook page, I guess it was yesterday or today, I'm not really sure, this screenshot that Randall's going to put up.
Yeah, let me make it a little larger here.
In the meantime, for those of you who are on internet. Okay, so in case you don't know, Janet is very conservative. She's biblical. She's like me. She's awesome. Except she's got a bigger audience in Christian radio because she's got more money. But here's the thing. She always talks about the same issues, and the gay agenda is one of the issues she talks about from a biblical perspective. And she tweeted out today what is there on the screen, which I'm actually still trying to get loaded on my screen here because my internet is like molasses. And
let's zoom in on that.
So what she tweeted out was, she didn't tweet it out. She did. She put this on Facebook, quote, 2 men can't get married, unquote. And then Facebook actually removed what she posted, and this is the message it says. It says, "It looks like something you posted doesn't follow our community standards. We remove posts that attack people based on their race, ethnicity, national origin, religious affiliation, sexual orientation, gender, or disability." Now, this is interesting to me because all she wrote was 2 men can't get married, and then they removed that, right? So I decided, because I could, and nobody could stop me, that I would post a similar thing on my Facebook page just to see if Bible News Radio would get flagged. Because, I like to... Oh, yeah? You're going to flag my friend Janet Mefford for saying that? I'm going to post more and see what happens. So apparently, so far, so good. I haven't been flagged. And for some reason, my Facebook page it's not working. So I'm just going to ignore Facebook. So I'm sorry. We'll just have to, deal with that later because my internet is very slow. It's like molasses, people. All right. Anyway, so Janet went ahead and tweeted that, and I retweeted it because we know that there is what's the word? Censorship. Yeah, that's the word. Censorship. Okay, speaking of that, the Pope actually said, listen to this, the Pope, who I don't support at all, but he says this, he says, Pope says serpent temptation in Bible is the first fake news. Yeah, that caught your attention, didn't it? Okay, so the Catholic Pope, this is over on BBC.com. I think Bareface is pulling it up. There he is, right there. Pope Francis, listen to this. He says here, he has denounced the snake tactics of those who spread fake news, saying the first case of misinformation is in the Bible when Eve is tempted by the serpent to eat the forbidden fruit. I like the fact that he actually used the word forbidden fruit instead of apple, because we don't know if it was an apple, just so you know. Okay.
Probably not.
The episode showed the, quote, dire consequences, unquote, that fake news can have. The Pope warned in a document. I love it. He warned in a document. Francis also said it led only to the spread of arrogance and hatred. He urged social media users and journalists to unmask manipulative tactics that foment division. The document, called "The Truth Will Set You Free: Fake News and Journalism for Peace," was issued ahead of the Catholic Church's World Communications Day on May 13th. Now, it was the first time the Pope has written on the topic. It comes amid a debate on ways to contain the spread of fake news on social media platforms and how it may have influenced recent elections, including in the U.S. in 2016. And then it says, spreading fake news can serve to advance specific goals, influence political decisions, and serve economic interests, the Pope said. Comparing it to the serpent's message of temptation in the Bible, he added, "We need to unmask what could be called the snake tactics used by those who disguise themselves in order to strike at any time and place." He called for education for truth that would teach people how to discern, evaluate, and understand information. Additionally, he said the role of journalists, whom he called the protectors of news, was not just a job, it's a mission. He said they should focus less on breaking news and more on exploring the underlying causes of conflicts. Now, I actually agree with the Pope about the bottom line there. I think I think because our media is so saturated and it's 24/7 and and all the other stuff, it is interesting. I think the mainstream media by and large is opinion based. It's not really that much evidence and fact based. But the reason I bring this up is because this morning in my email, I am writing a morning devotion every day, and this morning I was reading about temptation in the book of James, and I wanted to share some stuff with you today because I think it's pertinent to not only your Christian life, but also when we're looking at different things like the news and worldview. So this will take just a few minutes, but if you have your Bible, go ahead and open it up to James chapter 1. This is an epistle written to those who were dispersed abroad. Actually, the Hebrew name of James is Jacob, which you don't really typically hear the book called Jacob, but actually that's the Hebrew name. And wait, hold on a second. I'm trying to find it. I know it's here. I've seen it before. Actually, I was using my other Bible, so I'm trying to find it in this Bible. Okay, here it is. I found it. Okay, so James chapter 1, verses 12 through I think 15 or whatever is what I wrote. All right, listen to this. It says here, Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial. For once he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life, which the Lord has promised to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted by evil, and he himself does not tempt anyone. But each one is tempted when he is carried away and enticed by his own lust. Then, when lust has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and when sin is accomplished, it brings forth death. And then the verse 16 says, do not be deceived, my beloved brethren. Now, I've always loved this chapter, and I've always loved these verses. And the reason why is, I remember when I was in high school, one of the very first times I actually heard this right after I became a Christian. There's this popular saying that God won't give you any more than you can handle. And that's so not biblical. That is not in the Bible anywhere. In fact, it's actually, it's not in the Bible anywhere. In fact, the context of that saying that's not in the Bible is actually a misquotation of a scripture. It says God will not tempt you.
Allow you to be tempted.
Allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, and he will give you a way of escape. And so the issue with temptation is a couple of things. Number one, temptation is not sin. Temptation isn't sin. It's not a sin to be tempted, right? Some people actually go that far and they go, oh, well, if you're just tempted, then you're sinning. But nowhere does the Bible say that. It's not a sin to be tempted. In fact, here in these verses, the thing that struck me this morning was It says here, blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, for once he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life, which the Lord has promised to those who love him. And you have to understand the context here is that he's encouraging us in our faith, knowing that we're going to have struggles when we're a Christian. There's going to be temptation. There's going to be trials. But the thing is, we're blessed if we endure it, right? We're blessed if we go forth with it. So then he gets in here and he clarifies for the reader and to those who are listening during that day and age that when a person is tempted, you can know for sure it's not God doing it, right? Now we all have seen or heard the idea that the devil's on one shoulder and God, the angel's on the other, and they're whispering, do the good thing. No, do the bad thing. No, do the good thing. You know, you have these voices whispering in your ear, tapping you and all that. And God isn't tempting anybody to do evil. It's very clear. So you can already know that as a believer. If you're being tempted, it's not because it's God. But then he tells us how temptation comes about. And he says here that when each one is tempted, we are tempted when we're carried away and enticed by our own lust. Excuse me, and I have this weird thing that's been going on for a couple of days with my throat, and it's weird. So you're going to have to pardon me here because I have this weird tickle. It's very strange. Anyway. Okay. So here's the issue here then is enticement and lust. Okay. Now the devil clearly is the father of this. And he does what he can to entice us, right? He likes to entice us, you know, that carrot that's hanging in front of your face. You know, hey, have this. You know, he whispers. Right? But here's the thing, you know, I find it interesting, especially during the anniversary week of Roe versus Wade, that this analogy of birth, right, death, and conception is here. And this is just the steps. So it's interesting that James wrote this. He said, when lust is conceived, okay, first of all, some lust has to be conceived. How is it conceived? It's conceived by the enticement and the fact that you dwelled on it in your flesh, okay? The conception happens, right? Just like conception happens in humanity, you know, we were all conceived, right? King David said he was conceived in sin and various things. But then it gives birth, right? So what happens when a baby is born, you know, or a woman gives birth, a baby is born. Just the same thing with sin. When it's conceived after the lusting and all that stuff, then it gives birth. But what does it give birth to? It gives birth to sin. So being tempted, enticing, that dwelling gives ultimate birth to sin. And what is the wages of sin? It says when sin is accomplished, it brings forth death, right? And so this is literal. It means this literally. And the Bible says the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus, right? So I thought I'd share this with you because, you know, sometimes the sins that we struggle with or the temptation that we have, it literally does bring forth death, right? Sometimes it's figurative first, as in the situation with Adam and Eve, it literally was literal. It didn't happen for a long time. That didn't come to pass for a long time. But, you know, I would encourage you to study this a little bit on your own and ask God to show you some stuff in your own life. And I want you to sign up for my Bible News Radio email. You can do that by going to BibleNewsRadio.com. And we will be hopefully updating this website soon. It looks really nice, the new one, and we're just kind of putting some finishing touches on it. So the topic of gay conversion therapy, let's talk about it. In fact, how many of you know what that is? Put a 1 in the chat box if you happen to know what quote gay conversion therapy is. Because in a nutshell, I'll just say what it means is that homosexuals can go into therapy, talk about their homosexual feelings, and then they can change how they feel about homosexuality. They can change their orientation, they can change their feelings towards same gender, and they can, become heterosexual, okay? That's basically what it is. And as a therapist, as somebody who is I am a therapist. I'm a trained therapist. I've got the degree. I've got the education. And I know a lot of people who are in the field. My best friend is a psychologist. And what I can tell you is that the propaganda in the media is out there big time about this issue. If you believe the liberal media or the fake media when it comes to this one issue, you are so believing a lie. And there's a couple of books I want to show you, especially if you're new to the show and you've never seen these before. The first book I want to show you, it has, this has been out for quite some time. It was written by David Kupelian, who is, he works at worldnetdaily.com. And this is called The Marketing of Evil. This is one of the most popular books out there. And there's a follow-up book that he wrote called How Evil Works. Well, in this book, The Marketing of Evil, the very first chapter in this book, what David does, and he's actually been on our show a couple times, the very first chapter talks about the marketing blitz, quote, selling gay rights to America, okay? And in here, he actually gives a little bit of the history of how homosexuality was removed from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders in 1973. And also he talks about how AIDS was originally, the original name for AIDS, Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, right? The original name was called GRID, G-R-I-D. The first name, it was called GRID, which meant Gay-Related Immune Deficiency Syndrome, okay? So note the difference in the language. GRID, first name, Gay-Related Immune Deficiency Syndrome, or Gay-Related Immune Deficiency, okay? Versus AIDS, Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, okay? You notice how the gay was taken out of that? Okay, first of all, and the reason the gay was taken out was because they didn't want AIDS associated strictly with homosexual behavior. And yet, at the same time, the interesting thing is, even today, all these years later, the homosexual lobby, who's an expert on this, and the Center for Disease Control, by the way, will tell you that AIDS is largely a homosexual acquired disease, okay? And it's tragic, okay? So this is one thing. In this book, you will learn these things in the first chapter about how homosexualization and all this stuff was marketed. And you have to understand it was marketing. It's the marketing of evil, okay? All right, so here's the other thing. Now, here's another thing. This book, if you've listened to my show a long time, then you already know about this book. But this is called After the Ball, How America Will Conquer Its Fear and Hatred of Gays in the 90s. It's by Marshall Kirk and Hunter Madsen. And this book is an old book, obviously. It was written because of the 90s. It was trying to get you to understand how this issue was going to be marketed in the 1990s. And the two men that wrote this were both active homosexuals. They were, one was a marketing genius. In fact, I'll read Marshall Kirk. He was a researcher in neuropsychiatry, a logistician, a poet. He worked with the Johns Hopkins study of mathematically precocious youth. And he had a very, he worked with high IQs and all this other stuff. And then Hunter Madsen received his doctorate, so he was a doctor, in politics from Harvard in 1985. He was an expert on public persuasion tactics and social marketing. And what he did was he designed commercial advertising on Madison Avenue, and he served as a consultant to gay media campaigns across the country. I forgot which one it was when I was doing my research on this, but one of these men was found dead in his apartment. and there was no cause of death. And I think it was probably a suicide because that is very possible. But with that said, though, this book is literally the map, the agenda of the gay lobby. This book right here, if you know anybody who's in this movement and you actually are aware of the liberal media and how they do things, this book literally tells you how they did it. And you know what? It has totally come to pass, every single thing here. And this is written by two homosexuals, right? So I'm telling you info from the actual source. I'm not telling you info from the Christian right or, some Christian that doesn't want to have an open mind. This is literally the playbook. This is it. There is actual playbook, okay? So I share that because when it comes to the issue of conversion therapy, there has been an intentional play in the media to make it look like anybody who goes to therapy to request help for their same-sex attraction because they want change, not because they're being forced to change, but because they actually want it, that this is a harmful thing and that it actually leads to death and depression and suicide and anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder and all these other horrible things that because they sought out help, they are, they're going to get it because they went to therapy. I have a couple issues with this. The first one is, put it this way, therapy in itself doesn't cure anybody, okay? As somebody who's trained to do therapy, I'm going to tell you, therapy only works if the individual who goes to therapy will work at the change. I mean, that's the truth, right? I mean, if you want to learn how to do hard math, calculus or something, guess what? You're going to have to figure it out and work at it. If you want to learn to be a doctor, guess what? You're going to have to figure out anatomy and physiology and biology, and you're going to have to learn all this stuff. You're going to have to work at it. So if you want to change your feelings, your behaviors, your cognitions, you have to take the time to actually do the work. And I'm going to tell you, most people who go into therapy don't. They just don't. Most people who go to therapy, they don't do the work. They don't. It's a very few percentage that actually do. And it's sad, actually. I mean, I went to therapy. I was in therapy a long time, at least 15 years, because of all the stuff that I went through. But I have to tell you, I did the work because I wanted the change. Because my thinking is, hey, if I'm going to spend $50 to $100 a session to sit there with another person and tell them what I'm going through, if they're going to give me a tool, I'm going to do what the heck they said, right? In fact, this is part of the reason I wrote my little book, 5 Successful Ways to Stay Depressed, which is actually it's a joke. It's a funny book because it's basically 5 successful ways to get undepressed. But if you don't do it, you're going to stay depressed. Like, for example, I'm so depressed. Okay, go get off your butt. Go for a walk. That will help you. No, I don't feel like walking.
I'm so depressed.
Well, then you're going to be depressed. Don't eat sugar. That will make you depressed. Well, I love sugar. Well, then guess what? You're going to be depressed. So 5 successful ways to stay depressed, right? So, anyway, I tell you this because there was a story today, and this is what kind of, I decided to do this. I want to read this story to you. This is over on the New York Times, Randall. It's the one by Sam Britton. Okay. So listen to this. And then listen to me after I tell you what I'm going to tell you after you hear this, okay? This was the title. I was tortured in gay conversion therapy, and it's still legal in 41 states. In the early 2000s, when I was a middle schooler in Florida, I was subjected to a trauma that was meant to erase my existence as a newly out bisexual. My parents were Southern Baptist missionaries who believed that the dangerous and discredited practice of conversion therapy would, quote, cure, unquote, my sexuality. For over 2 years, I sat on a couch and I endured emotionally painful sessions with a counselor. I was told that my faith community rejected my sexuality, that I was the abomination we had all heard about in Sunday school, that I was the only gay person in the world, that it was inevitable I would get HIV and AIDS. But it didn't stop with these hurtful talk therapy sessions. The therapist ordered me bound to a table to have ice, heat, and electricity applied to my body. I was forced to watch clips of television gay men, on television of gay men holding hands, hugging, and having sex. I was supposed to associate these images with the pain I was feeling to once and for all turn into a straight boy. In the end, it didn't work. I would say that it did just to make the pain go away. I have begun to repair the damage that conversion therapy caused me and my family, but the failed promise of change has very likely caused a permanent tear in our relationship. Many think that conversion therapy, the snake oil idea, that you can forcibly change someone's sexual orientation or gender identity, is an artifact of the past, a medieval torture practice. But in fact, it is still legal in 41 states, including so-called progressive ones like New York and Massachusetts. New York City has fully banned the practice only last month. Today, I am proudly bisexual and gender fluid, and I serve as the head of advocacy and government affairs for the Trevor Project, the world's largest suicide prevention and crisis intervention organization for LGBTQ youth. We constantly hear from survivors of conversion therapy who have been so hurt that they are contemplating suicide, so we know the severity of the problem. A new report tells us just how huge it is. Nearly 700,000 adults in the country have received conversion therapy at some point, including about 350,000 who received the treatment as adolescents, according to a study by the Williams Institute, a think tank on sexual orientation and gender identity law and public policy at UCLA. It's heartbreaking that the study estimates that 20,000 LGBTQ teens will receive conversion therapy from a healthcare professional before they turn 18. An even larger number of youth, an estimated 57,000 teenagers, will receive the treatment from a religious or spiritual advisor before adulthood. Every prominent professional health association, including the American Medical Association, the American Psychological Association, and the American Academy of Pediatrics, opposes the use of conversion therapy on youth, calling it harmful and ineffective. And how long is this? Okay, I'll just read the rest because it's not too much longer. It says here, the practice can be performed by a licensed therapist in an office, in a correctional-style campground, by a parent continuously punishing a child for acting too feminine, or by a pastor who wants to pray the gay away. The trauma of conversion therapy can cause depression, suicidal ideation, family rejection, and a whole host of horrors that children must face without the knowledge that mental health professionals are supposed to help rather than harm. That's why we are leading a campaign to pass legislation to ban conversion therapy in every state, working with partners across the country, in particular the National Center for Lesbian Rights and the Human Rights Campaign, which, by the way, is the largest homosexual lobby group in the country. We've made significant progress. 9 states, the District of Columbia, and 32 localities have laws protecting kids under the age of 18 from receiving conversion therapy from licensed healthcare professionals. The Williams Institute study shows that 6,000 teenagers would have undergone treatment before they reached 18 if their state had not banned the practice. In the past couple of weeks, Virginia, Washington, Arizona, and Missouri have introduced bills to ban conversion therapy, but there are still challenges in stopping this barbaric practice. In fact, New Hampshire recently rejected an effort to protect LGBTQ youth from conversion therapy, with a close vote in the legislature being swayed in favor of allowing the practice to continue. Many legislators falsely believe that no such practice could exist. The new data from the Williams Institute shows just how wrong they are. I vividly remember calling the Trevor Project a decade ago as a young college student who was just realizing that the trauma of conversion therapy had devastated my ability to cope with the myriad challenges LGBTQ youth must survive on a daily basis. I now hear similar stories of calls just like mine. We must pass legislation to stop licensed therapists who seek to harm LGBTQ youth with conversion therapy. Everyone should know that you can't change what you never chose. Now, let me tell you something. And I want you to pay attention to what I'm about to tell you, and you can research this, what I'm about to tell you. The young man, Sam Brinton, who I just read his words, what he wrote yesterday, January 24th, 2018, is when that article was written and posted in the New York Times, right? Samuel Britton is a known liar. Dan Savage, who's one of the most vicious homosexual activists out there, doesn't even consider Samuel Britton's experience in conversion therapy valid. And for Dan Savage, who's one of the most outspoken out there homosexual activists, if he doesn't believe this guy about his experience, because trust me, Dan Savage would use anybody's experience that was valid to promote his agenda far and wide. Dan Savage, a leading homosexual activist, does not believe Samuel Britton's testimony about his experience in conversion therapy. So I share this because what's interesting to me is that, number one, is the New York Times, which we all know lies. Number two, they printed Sam Britton knowing that he is rejected even from the gay activists who have the same agenda. This guy is a liar. You can go and look on YouTube. There's a lot of videos of this guy, and there's videos of people debunking him because he's a flat-out liar. Flat-out liar. And it's tragic because the whole idea of gay conversion therapy, it's, you know, one of the things that they do is they advocate they're advocating that people can't get help when they want it, right? So basically, the ban for this ban that they want to institute into all the states. Basically, what the ban says is that if you're under 18 years old and you struggle with same-sex attraction and you want change, you cannot legally get it from a licensed therapist. Okay? So basically, the activist community, the gay activist community, is basically saying, if you want change as somebody who's struggling with unwanted same-sex attraction and you're under 18 years old, it's illegal for you to get help. I mean, it's that simple, right? And that's what that does, is that actually takes away the rights to your self-determination. Basically, they're saying, look, you can't get help until you're an adult. You just can't. And you got to ask yourself this, and this is why I go back to the word all the time, okay? You have to ask yourself why. Why have they targeted the youth so specifically? Why do they want children to learn about same-sex attraction before they're actually developmentally at the age where they actually like the opposite sex, right? I mean, God developed us, you know, he designed humanity, well, for us little kids, like, you know, when you're little, you like the same gender. You just like them, you know. Boys have cooties until you're a certain age. Girls have cooties until you're a certain age. I mean, that's normal development. But see, the gay activist community has cleverly marketed the evil that they've done. They have marketed evil. And they have marketed it with, these are the books. Do your research. Don't believe me. Go read the books. Do your own research. But I'm telling you, this guy's a liar. And what they're doing is they're harming people. All these statistics that they throw out, well, somebody who gets gay conversion therapy, you know, they're more apt to commit suicide, etc., blah, blah, blah. That's a line of bull if I ever heard it. First of all, we live, number one, in the most pro-homosexual society we have ever lived in, number one. So how is it with all of the gay rights, which are all special rights, by the way, I put them in that category, why is it that suicide rates are still high among these youth, even though all the rights are there for them? How come it hasn't changed? How come it's only increased? Well, I posit that God created us in his image, right? And he made us male and female. And he gave us a conscience. He naturally gave us a conscience to know what is right and what is wrong. And I know this from from my own experience. You know, I've shared this before. I was sexually abused when I was a little girl for a lot of years. And I was exposed to pornography and a whole bunch of horrendous crap that, you know, I'm glad that God gave me the ability to overcome it. But same-sex attraction was part of my issue. And I went to therapy. And within a few sessions, I got it. I understood what I was looking for. Because, see, here's the thing. The overwhelming majority of people who struggle with same-sex attraction have 3 issues. Usually there is some type of trauma associated with most of it, okay? Could be sexual abuse trauma, not in all cases, but the majority. There is a vast majority trauma. There could be an attachment issue with the same gender parent or the opposite gender parent. And or if you're under the age of 30, you have been marketed to this your whole life by the media, and the media is trying to tell you that this is okay, and you should just go ahead and you should mess around and see if it works for you. Okay? If you're over 30, let's just say for sake of argument, most people who struggle with this, it's because they're not dealing with the underlying comorbid issues which are attached to this issue, which happens to be anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder, generally speaking, if they have that thing. So the thing is, that's what has to be dealt with. And I can tell you from my experience and interviewing a number of former homosexuals that I've had on this show, including Ann Polk, who was a former lesbian, including Stephen Black, who was a former homosexual, and I've had Stephen Bennett on my show, and I know a lot of experts in this field, and there's thousands of men and women who have sought out help, and they've received help, and they've changed. God has allowed them and healed them. Now, look, there are people who seek out help, they sincerely want change, and they struggle. They struggle with it. You know, and for some people, I have to say that it is going to be a lifelong struggle. You know, Paul in the New Testament, he talked about having a thorn in the flesh. I believe that there are things in our lives that God allows so that he keeps us humble and so that we rely on him and we understand, like Paul did, that his grace is sufficient for us, right? Where we are weak, he is strong. And, you know, he doesn't tempt us to do evil, which then leads into this other issue, which is actually tied into this. And again, it's been marketed to the church, and that's the whole idea of homosexual Christians or gay Christians. You know, it is not a popular topic to say publicly in the church that gay and Christian don't belong together. But you know what? They don't. Because if you're a Christian, gay shouldn't be in front of it. It just shouldn't, because that's a self-identifying feeling that's incongruent with God's word. And you're putting that before a Christian, right? Christians are little Jesuses. We're little Christ. We're supposed to walk like Christ. And Jesus wasn't gay, just so you know. And Jesus didn't leave us any examples, not one, in the Bible. There's 0 examples of a homosexual or lesbian couple in the Bible, just so you know. Now, the people who purport that there is, they're lying to you, and they don't understand Scripture. They twist it to make it say what they want it to say, but there are no examples there. There is a book about sex in the Bible. It's called the Song of Solomon or Song of Songs, which is purely about heterosexual sex. There is instruction about marriage in the Bible, beginning with Adam and Eve to the very end of the book in Revelation, at the marriage supper of the Lamb, where we look at marriage as defined as one man and one woman. And marriage is beautiful as that because it represents Christ and the church. And that's true, okay? So there's nothing positive in the Scripture about homosexuality. Now, homosexuality is mentioned in the Bible, but it's mentioned always in a negative light, and it's always mentioned, you know, associated with the flesh and death, ultimately. Somebody there, I just said, you know, went ahead and mentioned Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah, that's probably the most popular story about it. You know, Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed, ultimately. And, the gay lobby will say, well, they weren't really destroyed because of that. They were destroyed because they lacked hospitality, And to which I go, well, that's kind of interesting because really? No, I don't think that's it. People will say Jonathan and David, they were homosexuals. Well, I would just say your logic is flawed if you think that, because David actually committed adultery with a woman. So at the very least, if you're going to call him, a homosexual, you might just call him a bisexual, because technically he would have had to have a relationship with Jonathan. But nowhere does it say that Jonathan was gay anywhere. So I mean, there's so many flaws. It's ridiculous, right? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And my point in sharing this with you is that you got to be smart about what you're reading about these topics. There are organizations out there like the Restored Hope Network who have people who can help people with this topic. And there are things that have gone on behind the scenes of many things, and where policy and stuff has tried to get passed and people won't listen to it. And I'm going to tell you, one of those states, it was New Jersey. New Jersey passed the bill to ban this, and you know who signed it? Chris Christie, Mr. Republican, pro-family, good old Chris Christie signed the bill to ban conversion therapy. Mr. non-conservative, purporting and faking himself to be one, signed the bill, even though a group of people who actually are experts in the field gave him all the evidence to show, look, this is actually the truth. This is the real research. But see, the other thing is, like, they talk about, well, the APA, the American Medical Association, this and that, they're totally against it. Yeah, and they've condemned it, etc. But what they don't tell you is that people in the field who actually do the research and they try to get it published, these places won't publish it. And the places that do get it published, they can't get press anywhere else except the alternative media. And a lot of people don't frankly want to take the time to get the alternative media. I earned my Master's of Science degree at Vanguard University of Southern California. So anyway, I mean, they're not telling you the whole story. And that's my point. My point is there is always another side to the story. And the mainstream media isn't telling you it. And so don't be naive about about anything that you hear, because there is stuff out there that will give you the actual facts if you look at it. Randall wants to say something, so that's good, because then I can take a drink of water.
All right, should I go solo?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, something to think about here is just these purported therapy methods of using electricity and ice and pain to desensitize folks or to change your... I mean, okay, if those are actually being practiced, that is what should be banned. Whether you're trying to deal with alcoholism or any kind of addiction, that's the bad therapy practice. So why aren't these folks looking at legislation to ban bad practices that use pain and suffering purportedly in therapy by licensed therapists? It's okay if you're unlicensed. They're fine with that. People that don't have any kind of training. But it seems like that would be the issue if ice and being strapped and the tables and pain caused for whatever the treatment is for, whatever kind of addiction or whatever kind of behavior, whatever, that would be the problem. They're not championing use of torture in therapy. It's banning conversion therapy. You can't use it there, and so rather than Samuel Brinton brings out these dubious claims of this torture and stuff and testifies to this, I'll say, okay, this is what conversion therapy is, therefore we ban all conversion therapy, again, especially for minors, under 18 with unwanted same-sex attraction. The only thing they can be told is to celebrate. You need to celebrate this. You need to fix your, that's what you need to fix. You need to learn to embrace it and use this as, and claim this as your identity. You don't need to get rid of it. That's your problem. That's why you're upset, is because you haven't learned to celebrate it and embrace it. And that's what they're being told. The other is not an option. And so, again, I just think, if torture and therapy is the issue, why is that not the issue that they're trying to ban? But no, they just throw the label conversion therapy. It just has to do with same-sex relationships, and it's not to be touched. Especially, we can't give children another option. They just need to learn to celebrate and embrace that identity.
Yeah. So I have some breaking news. I got to share this, guys. I just logged on to Facebook and I saw some breaking news. You guys got to hear this. This is so cool. You guys know Jamie Grace? She said yes. She's getting married.
Seriously?
She's getting married.
Somebody proposed?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't see that coming. I didn't know there was a...
I know. Listen to this.
I didn't know she was courting.
This is so cool. Listen to this. It says, I said yes. We met a little over a year ago. Then my 26th birthday was the loveliest yet. It was the start of what feels like an old-fashioned courtship from a beautiful book, movie, or song. I couldn't compose even if I tried. Everything about the Aaron Collins is a reminder of how good God is and how faithful he is to fulfill his promises for those who wait. I've been so overwhelmed with God's joy and peace and the bonus of the incredible ways our families are already becoming one, aka my parents love him and his parents love me. Aww. I'll share more as the days go, but my goodness, y'all, I've been giggling nonstop since he asked. So much giggling. Hashtag I said yes, and there's a diamond ring. So, yay! And she posted a picture of her and Aaron together. Oh, so it's going to be Jamie Collins is going to be her new name when she gets married. How cool is that? That is so, see, I'm all teary because that's so cool.
Where did she post that?
She posted it on her Jamie Grace page.
And Facebook?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool. Yay! So I wonder when he proposed. I see, now I want to know. I want to know everything. Anyway, if you guys don't know who Jamie Grace is, she is a young lady, a lover of God. I mean, she is awesome, and she has Tourette's syndrome. She is radically on fire for Christ. She loves children. She wants to adopt tons of children, and she sings awesome. She writes. She's just so gifted. And anyway, did you find the picture?
Yes, I did.
You want to put it up? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And anyway, she's written a lot of songs about being single and the problem, blah blah, etc. And so that's so cool. And you know what? I was 23 when I got married, so she's 26 or 27, something like that. So she's old enough. She's still young to me, but still, that's so cool. Isn't that cool, you guys? Isn't it neat that Jamie Grace is engaged now? Is it okay if my sister is gay? What do I do? Well, that's a good question. And, basically the only thing you can do is love your sister where they're at. Don't be walking around and condemning them, yelling at them, or shooting them or anything. I mean, just love them where they're at. Encourage them to deal with whatever issues that they have. Look at that. Is that awesome or what? Jamie Grace is engaged. Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
I went off the screen a long time ago, just so you know.
Oh, well, it just showed up on my phone.
Okay.
Question. Why do you feel your religion allows you to dictate how others should live? Have I ever said that anywhere? I don't think I've actually ever said that. So that's your question, not mine, or your belief about supposedly what I believe, and not mine. She likes bacon too. Is that bad? I don't know. I like bacon. Is that a horrible thing? Okay, that's a serious. I know where that line of questioning is going. Okay, all right. So that's very cool. I don't think you have said that. Yeah, no, Melanie. No, I haven't said that actually. So that is so cool though. Look at that. I am so happy for Jamie. Oh my gosh. You just said that marriage is one woman and one man because the Bible supposedly says that. Well, the Bible doesn't supposedly say it. The Bible does say it. Bible says that marriage is one man and one woman. Have you ever read the Bible? That's the question. I mean, really, why would any man want to put, okay, I'm not going to say that out loud, but, that it's, ultimately, it comes down to lust, like we talked about in the beginning. Can you read that verse to me, please? Yes, I've read it. Okay. If you've read it, then there's no need for me to read you the verse. Okay. I'm not going to say it. Okay. All right. Let me get on to some other news, too. Here. Actually, this was the... Oh, God. Is our time up already?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
We've
been
on for 56 minutes, roughly.
Jeez. All right. Well, in that case, let's thank our sponsors.
Let's do that.
All right. So, Bible News Radio is a listener-sponsored show, and I want to let you know that we are also a sponsored show. So, if you actually... so anyway, Ariel Ministries, sorry, I'm getting distracted by comments. I'm not going to look at comments. I'm going to do the commercial. Okay, so Ariel Ministries is our sponsor. If you go to ariel.org, you can save 20% when you use the coupon code Bible News, and you can get anything in their bookstore. You can get tapes, MP3s, books, DVDs. I think there's even T-shirts you can get in there somewhere, posters, all that stuff. You can get that. And then the other thing is you can go over to my Twitter account at Bible News Radio on Twitter, and you can download a free, I'm trying to get back into the scope. You can download the free PDF we have there. It's a Bible study that tells you 33 things that happen when you become a Christian. And it's free for you. There it is. 33 things, a study of positional truth. And for those of you who are on the Spreaker podcast, you can also go to bit.ly/Ariel33. I think this is going to be just running through this month. So if you haven't downloaded that yet, now would be the time to do it before January ends. I think we'll have a new one in February. Also, Camp Shoshana. That is a camp. That's a Messianic Jewish Bible study camp that you can go to for 1 week or up to 5 weeks. It's held in upstate New York in the Adirondack Mountains. Beautiful area up there. And Dr. Fruchtenbaum and Model Ballaston, who's been a guest on our show, they're going to be teaching up there, as well as some other people. If you're interested, go to ariel.org and you can download the pamphlet and learn more. And really, honestly, heck, if you have the time and you can take the time and you have the money, I would totally do it if I were you. Totally good. Also, if you want to become a pillar of our community, we just ask that you commit to donating to our show every month, and you can do that by going to BibleNewsRadio.com. We'll put you into a special Facebook group, and occasionally I send nice mail to people who are pillars. I do, actually. All right. Also, SparkNaturals.com is an affiliate that I actually have an affiliate code with Spark Naturals. If you guys use essential oil like I do, SparkNaturals.com is what I use because I love it, and because I'm an affiliate with it. You can save 10% off all orders, including sale items. And all you have to do is use the coupon code John316 on anything in the store. I love essential oil. I use it all the time because I have really super bad allergies living here in Tennessee, just massively bad. But anyway, you can go to SparkNaturals.com and use John316 to save money. Am I forgetting anything?
Well, the Unstuck Club is free for the rest of the month.
Yes. Starting next month, the free Unstuck Club is no longer going to be free. The base price for the current free Unstuck Club is going to go to $2.99 a month. So those of you who are already in there, I'm not sure what's going to happen actually if you're already in there. But new people, if they're going to start that base club, it will be $2.99 a month, and then I'm going to be starting an Unstuck Club Premium, which will be $8.99 a month. And so there'll be a little bit more in that. There'll be a monthly coaching call and we'll do some video and some other stuff in there as the Lord leads me to. So if you're not part of the Unstuck Club yet, go for it. There's like six hours at least of free stuff in there. At least it's free until the end of the month. So check that out. And let's see here. Is there anything else I need to tell you? Let's see here. I'm going to look here at my notes. Yes, actually on Saturday, on Saturday, Rick Costa at 3 p.m. Central Time, he is going to interview me on the Jesus Did It channel. And so hopefully you will get to see that. I'm looking forward to it. And next week, Rick is going to be on this show on Tuesday talking about his brand new book. So I hope you guys can do that. And I think that is it for, I think, my current announcements. So yeah, I actually have a couple of guests next week. It's going to be fun. A couple of guests. And then at the end of February, if you guys, any of you are coming down to Nashville, National Religious Broadcasters Convention is taking place in February from February 27th through March 2nd. And Randall and I are going to be down there. It's a 4-day conference. It's the largest religious broadcasters in the world. There's like 7,000 to 10,000 people that attend this thing every year. And I have to tell you that we'll be down there doing media and stuff. But if you're in the area and you want to meet with me in Bareface, let us know. And actually, if you can go to NRB, even for the expo, it's not that expensive. In fact, I think the expo is free. I'm not positive. Don't quote me on that. But you can go to nrbconvention.org, and you can look and learn more if you happen to be in the area. It would be a great place to meet us because we will be down there interviewing lots of people and hoping to get to meet the president, the vice president rather, Mike Pence, who has just confirmed he will be speaking at NRB. Now, I've actually also met Mike when he was governor. Was he governor of Indiana? I think. I don't remember. Anyway, I did meet him in real life once. But anyway. All right, and I think that's it. All right, and I don't know what the conversation is here, but anyway. So, that is it, people. I want to thank you for tuning in. Tomorrow is our Free for All Friday show, and I think Randall and I are we gonna do that tomorrow at the same time, 7 o'clock?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah, now that we're feeling better, we'll have some fun tomorrow, right? We will actually have fun on the show. It won't be so serious like today, you know? I think that we should all play music. Don't you think so? I think we should, right? All right, so don't forget. Sign up for my email, BibleNewsRadio.com. Follow us on YouTube at BibleNewsRadio.com. Follow us on Facebook, BibleNewsRadio.com. And Twitter, BibleNewsRadio.com. Okay? And remember to be bold, stand up, and go with God. You know why? Because He loves you guys. He really does. He does. So, go take on the day. See you tomorrow.